Yay.
Caitlyn, thank you so much. And also thank you for handling the struggle bus that is Lindsay.
It's all of our buses.
I know we're all buzzing it. Struggle buzzing it.
Thank you for having me.
We both did our lipstick, so we look sort of.
It's the most important thing.
It is. I actually upstairs. I've ordered some weird things during quarantine. I have those magnetic eyelashes.
How are they?
I don't know. They're still in the box. Because where the fuck am I going that I would take them out?
You need to report back though. I need to know because I'm a little nervous that it's going to make my eye like vibrate, but I also really want to try them.
I'm pretty sure it's just going to fall off, but I'll let you know if it does. Or like get sucked into like a compass or something.
Or you walk by a fridge and all of a sudden they fling and they attach to the fridge. You're like, whoa, that was
exactly. And then I also bought a ball gown for some reason.
Oh, I'm jealous. I've been Pinteresting and tagging ball gowns for something that is not occurring, nothing real, but I just love them.
But you should. You should.
Can I ask more about this ball gown? What color? What size?
What size? It's
like like a large skirt or a small sophisticated.
I have size 6 to 16 in my closet because I'm hopeful and depressed at the same time.
Yeah, that information no one needs to know ever. Rip out the labels.
I also is it like a big skirt? When was the last time you've put on something that had a number on it?
Never.
Not for me. It's long. It's got that short, like a little short and then longer in the back thing going.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what that's called, but
me neither. But is it like puffy? Like
I know it's like very loose and flowy, and it's navy blue. Most of my clothing is blue, and then it's got some sort of like shiny thing here, and it's a little low cut. And I don't know where I'm going, but whatever.
It's kind of like a Jessica Rabbit, like meets navy. I love that.
Yeah,
it's very chic.
It's very chic. I'm not a clothing person, but I'm not a makeup person either. This is this is
all we're just faking it till we make it.
We're faking it. But you are doing really well. Like
you could say I'm not. You could say I'm going insane.
So we're all going insane. But I will say, like, I've spoken to a bunch of people lately, a bunch of comedians.
Oh, great.
And you all seem to know each other. And because Alice put me in touch with you.
Mm-hmm. She's incredible.
Yes, she is. She was on our podcast when I still had a co-host. And she's fantastic. Some people are clearly doing well, and some people are clearly not. And sometimes I'll be like, I thought it was okay. And then someone else will be like, wow, that person is amazing. And I'm like, really? Because they're kind of not.
They're kind of a mess. Well, the Zoom, you have an advantage. So people will be listening, and making their own impressions. But you have a view into my bedroom, into if my bed's made. Like when you Zoom somebody, you really can snoop around if you're inquisitive enough.
I can't. So true. My bed is never made. It used to be made when I let my son watch television if he made my bed first.
What a great idea.
That's the rule. Thanks, I know.
If then,
yes. See, parenting, positive and negative reinforcement. But for the last 2 nights, we've been doing a family sleepover where we have literally dragged their mattresses into our bedroom.
Oh, that's so fun.
It's really fun. It's also...
probably you don't sleep very well.
Well, they sleep very well, but they don't go to sleep till late. Mommy falls asleep whenever, but I'm also aware it's like my husband and I are fighting, so it's our way to interject. So
yeah, I think that's great.
I know, right? It's why people breastfeed for long periods.
Add a buffer. Yeah. Just like mellow it out. Our kid never stops us from fighting though. We're like, you're here, you're a part of it.
Oh no, they don't.
Our poor little guy.
Us. It's just that so the end of the night, we're not sitting there like forcing ourselves to like interact. We're just we're healthy, very unhealthy, silent.
Yeah, healthy boundaries. Yeah. I love it.
But it's the pandemic, so go figure. Okay, I spent a lot of time this morning looking at your boobs, which sounds weird.
Thank you. I'm completely flattered.
I looked at your old boobs. They were great. I haven't made you new boobs yet, but I'm sure they're even nicer.
I have basic.
I have nice.
Basic boobs.
I have a friend who, one of my oldest and dearest friends, she somewhere between, I think about 4 years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer. She was also had very large breasts all her life, and she, went through the whole thing. She's fine. This is not a sad story,
It's just, well, cancer is so sad.
I know.
And like, I'm sorry she had to go through that. I'm sorry. Also, as a friend for you, like, it's so stressful for your side too, because I feel caregivers and friend support systems have a lot of trouble with it as well.
I don't think I know I wasn't very good at it because I didn't know what to say or do.
Yeah, it's very hard.
She's also in New York. I'm sorry, she's in Florida. I'm in New York. And so I should have flown in to be with her, but there was whatever. In retrospect, I was a crap friend, and I should have been better, and I apologized as I should. But there was when I was watching your docu series. What do you call it? Docu series.
Yeah, docu series. Yeah.
What's the name of it? I'm blanking.
Screw You Cancer.
Thank you. I knew it was similar. I just couldn't see it in my brain.
I really wanted to call it Fuck You Cancer, but they made us use Screw You Cancer.
I know.
Which I think's fine.
It is. You probably could have got an F blank something. I don't know.
Yeah. But then there's a whole organization called Fuck Cancer, so it's fine.
I know.
Screw You Cancer was great.
Yeah. Screw You Cancer is great. And you were nominated for an Emmy with it.
Oh, we won an Emmy, yeah.
You won an Emmy. Sorry. Yes. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's like a special artistic National Academy Honors. It doesn't look the same as regular Emmys, but they're fancy.
No.
I'll downplay it if you need me to.
No, I don't. I'm just embarrassed that because it's tough to be on the treadmill and read, okay?
It's very tough. And I'm dyslexic, so I'm reading all kinds of parts of the page.
Right. No, I was like, and then I got to your LinkedIn, and so I was like scanning through that. And so, but it's fantastic. And you can find, it is on YouTube. It's good because I can figure out how I was going to get to it. And it's a very honest, and I think that it's also very painful because you're so sweet and cheery. And
I was very young.
It was 2000.
This is also right, and this is not dealing with breast cancer. This is dealing with having the genetic mutation that predisposes me to a higher chance of breast cancer in my lifetime. So that's when you've heard of people like Angelina Jolie or other celebrities getting a preventative double mastectomy is what I had, instead of somebody who has, it's a very different experience to have gone through cancer, have gone through chemo treatment, and then have a mastectomy without really a choice behind it. So we did the series to show that this was a new form of medicine and healing and cancer prevention. Yeah. And to put a voice behind it, because there wasn't that much visual, documentation. There's a lot of research, but it's very clinical. So I also always want to be clear, like, I did not have cancer. I never want to take that experience and claim that I had that. It's so different, but I'm really happy to share my journey the other way, working very hard to prevent it.
Sure. So I respect your clarification. I was going with, my friend was thrilled that she didn't have to wear a bra later.
Yeah, that's great. I never have to wear a bra. They basically build you new boobs, and the breast sits happily in your pectoral muscle. Nowadays, mine is even almost dated by now. Nowadays, they can create like a mesh hammock for your breast, and it looks so natural, and it's so great, and you don't have to wear a bra because you just built a little bra around to keep it happy and high.
Yeah, I'm so sad. I would not obviously wish breast cancer or Braca one or on anyone, but like as someone who like was the first girl to wear a bra in fifth grade.
Boobs in the room. Yeah, right. After having this, and I was very we grew up very 90s. Everything was like poo-poo. Breast augmentation, like the 80s made us all have like a bad taste in our mouth, literally. And I think that if anybody wants to have plastic surgery, and I would have never assumed I'd say this, I say go for it. Yeah. I am so pro plastic surgery now, because this did change my life, and I do feel better, and I do feel better in my body, and they're boobs I designed, and I felt proportionate to who I am. If anybody wants a reduction, a lift, I'm like, let's not be shy. We have this ability. We have expert doctors now. Go for it. I'm like, if you want a nose job, I'm never gonna ever think or judge or assume somebody should do anything with their body that they want or don't want to do. But I've never been more pro surgery.
Right. And apparently there's a lot of surgeries going on now because people are like, well, fuck it, no one's gonna see me. Is
that what's happening? Is that all the celebs are in, now I want to do something. And I'm like, what can I have done?
Well, Botox obviously is easy, and, all those fillers and stuff, but not that you need it clearly, but
no, you look amazed. We don't need it yet, but who knows? Maybe I'll do it in 3 weeks.
I started doing it, I I think right before, I don't know, I started doing it in the last 3 or 4 years, but like,
oh, really?
it's a secret from my husband. And
oh,
so,
yeah.
you know,
That's very common.
Yeah. So not because I want him to think I look beautiful, but because I don't want to have a discussion.
To give you shit about it. No.
Yeah.
And you don't want him to ever tell you not to do it because you're loving it.
Right. I mean, there was one time I got filler in my lips and then lay down and took a nap and I looked like a duck. And when I woke up, he was like, did you do something to your lips? I was like, no. And then I just started laughing and he's like, why'd you lie to me? I was like, because it's so fucking obvious. It wasn't a lie.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't want to get into it.
Right. But the only upside is I did get Botox before the quarantine in prep for my book launch. And so
right, of course.
So I could probably go another month.
How long does it last?
You're supposed to go back every 3 to 4 months or 3. Okay. But for some reason mine sticks. It might just be the fat, like literally.
Or your body is just like holding on to it, which is great.
Yeah. And so I'll go back and she'll be like, nah, you don't need it. And that's why
I love. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that because you want someone who's conservative. Oh, I'm going to sneeze.
Excuse me.
Edit that out.
Edit that out. Yeah, I don't have an editor. Okay. So
okay.
I'm supposed to get one, but I don't know. I
edit on GarageBand and I'm very slow and it takes me hours to do it, but I love it.
Yeah, I did edit for my 1 year anniversary episode. I did edit clips of like my favorite things, and it just it took a really fucking long time.
It takes a really long time.
So difficult. Like it was the worst thing I've ever done. I'm never doing a top 10 moments again. Like no. I'm just not. And Alice was on because one of my top 10 moments was it might have been 2 was I accidentally drunk emailed my son's guidance counselor.
And what did she say?
I had a thought come to me in the evening and tried to express it. And then the next day he called me and was like, Lindsay, I couldn't quite understand what you meant. Like, did you read it after you sent it? And I was like, no.
No, I was trashed.
Right, exactly.
Did you read it?
Yeah, right.
It was 6 a.m.
Exactly. Sadly, it was like 9 o'clock at night. You know, like
great.
Because I'm a parent, you know, but
much more realistic actually. Yeah.
But then Alice and my co-host made me bring it up, and it was basically just a lot of like ellipses and ... and me trying to.
I love that.
I was trying to do a mental health good and I failed. And I have a fantasy of him actually listening to an episode and hearing me talk about it, but so far no.
I hope so. Then
yeah. Listen, whose husband was it, yours or Sue's, that worked for Cutco? Or someone?
So it was Kate's, our producer.
Okay.
We had her husband as a guest and he worked for Cutco for a long time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did a horrible job. So you're the co-host of the ScamWow Podcast.
ScamWow.
ScamWow.
It's okay. Now
edit that out.
Could be SlamWow. Edit that out, guys.
Yeah.
If you're listening, edit that out. Whomever's listening.
Exactly. So it's called ScamWow. And I listened to a bunch of different episodes, but the Cutco one, I work with teens. I have 3 teens selling Cutco right now.
Really?
Yeah.
My cousin's selling it now. Right after that episode, she called me and I was like, look, I don't believe in it, but you can do your little like seminar on me and I won't buy anything. She was like, great. I just need the hours. Like I knew that we understood the breakdown of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You know, my patient they don't even care. They just want some money. And so I'm not against that. I didn't finish the episode because I had to shower and
you gotta live your life.
Yeah, but I am going to finish it later because I do want to know, like, because it sounded sketchy to me when they were telling me about it. And
it's interesting. It doesn't as much screw over the purchaser, the customer. It mainly screws over the seller. So the teens, the young people, they are working like an exorbitant, a ton of hours.
Yeah, a lot of hours.
And they're working a lot of hours and they're doing a lot of like, they have to attract other sellers. And it's like a lot of this system and this idea of like basically a pyramid system. So they end up losing a lot of time, which should be paid for really. So it ends up being that the sellers are the ones who are at a loss at the end.
I'm going to disagree respectfully and say it's the parents and the parents' friends of these kids.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to do it. You got to buy something.
I guess so. But my parents really liked the knives. So when my cousin called them, they were like, great, because we really like these knives. So I think but the cool thing is that these parents, yes, they're buying it, but you're not buying it forever. It's like a one-time deal. So it would be like if you got like $100, you get a couple knives, whatever. It's not really going to kill you.
They're really pricey.
I know, but then it's done. It's like a one and done. It's like when you buy a nice rug, you're like, all right, it's worth it. And then it's one and done. But the kids are in cycles of this, and they have to find more people, then they have to crowdsource more. And it's like a vicious cycle. And also I think it takes a lot of their brain power and energy and a lot of focus in their lives for just this one sale per person.
Right.
I don't know. And the managers just, it's tough.
I agree, but during this summer, at least they were doing something, like.
I know.
Otherwise, they're just sitting around smoking pot, and by all means, smoke away. I mean, I don't think that's clear.
No,
but
not
like,
your kids.
Yeah.
Other people's kids can smoke as much as they want.
Right. No, but I don't say that about me either. I'm just not gonna. It's just like we've got a lot of weird shit happening.
We've got a lot of weird shit.
Staten Island turkeys. I heard.
What happened?
No, I heard it on your show. You can't say what happened.
Oh,
Staten Island, there were turkeys running around.
Oh, I was like, wait, there's new things about turkeys? Yes, there were turkeys running around Staten Island. But, Staten Island is very confusing, and it's sort of like the Wild West of New York.
100%.
So I believe it. There could be elephants running around. I'd be like, it checks out.
Yeah, agreed. I briefly worked right after I got my license. This place reached out to me. They basically needed a clinical supervisor, which I was no way qualified for, but they just needed a signature. So for 3 weeks, I commuted to Staten Island and signed papers.
Wow, I love that.
You shouldn't. It was totally.
But then you get the money.
Exactly. And they offered me a permanent job, but I was like, there's no way I'm commuting from Staten Island. We were either in Forest Hills or moving to Long Island. So I was not making that.
No, not that.
It was a weird place. I agree.
Yeah, it checks out for Staten Island.
Yeah, it's super weird. But I still think you're winning. You painted your cabinets, I heard.
Thank you. I did. Yes. I painted my cabinets. I am doing a ton of renovations in the house. I do things usually like halfway done because I have a toddler and things don't get finished. And my husband was like, I bet during quarantine you will be able to finish all of the little home improvement projects. And I have. And I've created more for myself and more and more and more. And I just can't stop.
I did the same thing, which it's definitely anxiety fueled. And I thought it was positive. And then my husband did point out that I've also missed time I could have had with my children.
But did you actually want that time? Maybe it was like time for yourself. And you're like, yes, that was purposeful.
Yeah. Right. And anyone who listens to the show knows that when you said, did you want that? My answer was going to be no. I love my kids, but for example, they recently took an online quiz to find out what kind of a learner they are.
Ooh,
They're both auditory learners, to which I said, in my head, I didn't.
Oh shit.
I tweeted it. I was going to say in my head, and then I was like, let's be honest, I tweeted this. I was like, they found out they're auditory learners, which basically means they're just assholes that choose not to listen to me all the time. That's all that means to me.
You're like, you haven't been picking up that much auditory learning around me. Who is
really,
this with?
I think you need to retake that goddamn test. But I started teaching classes on psychology to teenagers, and then I signed my kids up for class, so they learn maybe 6 words of Spanish that they remember for the day. Right. And that was our thing. But it was like, what can I do now to
Every day is that way for me. And if you ask me, in a calm, relaxed setting, I could say, oh yeah, these are our usual days. This is how we plan it. This really works for my son. This, we do the system. But the moment of the morning of, I'm always like, oh shit, what are we going to do today? How am I going to entertain him? How are we going to get him exhausted? How are we going to keep his attention? Are we going to do any learning today? Do we need shapes? Do we need numbers? I do have this mini panic every morning, and then I'm like, well, let's watch TV. Let's first turn on the TV, and then I'll collect myself, have a cup of coffee. I do watch TV, and we as a household watch more TV, I think, than
everyone does.
Other people would.
No,
I don't know. I love it.
I don't know how you define that, but because especially now,
Anybody I've asked is we do a little bit, or it's not good for him, and I'm like, yeah, it's not good for us either, but this is what we do.
This is where we are.
This is how we're living.
So this is what we're doing. Luke is, how old is Luke?
Oh, Lou, my son?
Lou, yes.
Lewis is 2.5.
2.5. I think I'm stuck in a moment of feeling super embarrassed that I got his name wrong.
Oh, don't even worry.
I'll let it pass. He's 2.5.
You know what? Let it pass. I forget.
Okay. So school would it have been, or was he?
No, I really wanted to do like being a really fun, cool, unemployed actor, I was like, I'll be home with him. It was fine. But then I was realizing they can never learn as much as they learn with other children. So I really wanted to do, not that we could even afford a daycare, but I wanted like a 2 or 3 days a week for him to go in the morning and just play with other kids and have fun. And that was my plan for this summer and fall. And then COVID hit, and I had other parents that I started talking to my parents, and they have all these other huge plans for their children. And so I don't know. So we're going to the park. He actually is friends with a bunch of 9 to 11-year-olds that we play with every day at the park, and he plays soccer with them.
That's okay.
He's so tiny, and they're so nice to him. And
that's okay. It's zone of proximal development. It's a psych thing where I just pulled it out of my ass. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It means like it's good for them to be with older kids so that they can like, step up.
Yeah. So we might do a little group thing a couple days a week with 2 other kids. We're calling it Montessori. I don't even know what that means necessarily. But
I don't know either. You're supposed to. You're supposed to.
I know. She said, we'll do Montessori learning. I was like, great, fabulous. But I think we're all just playing together with like sand, and we're going to call it Montessori, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 or 4 people in the world that actually know what it is, and other.
And you know what? Let me know. DM me. What is it?
I don't know. I mean,
I feel like it's Amish, but I'm sure I'm wrong.
It's some like hippy dippy shit, but I feel like fuck it. It doesn't matter. I think it's just a status thing,
Great, I'll take it. I'll pretend I know what it is.
I think it's an Upper West Side status thing, and Upper East Side.
Yeah. Anybody upper is fancy and has something I don't understand.
Right. Perfect. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Oh, Brooklyn. We left out Brooklyn too. Yeah, like Park Slope. Park Slope is big on Montessori.
Can't leave out Brooklyn.
Yes, but I feel like that's how until my children started the twos program, which was like the first nursery school experience.
Right.
And even then, like I feel like the first 5 years of their lives was trying to figure out how to exhaust them.
Yes, that's it. We're just like, how to get you tired, because my husband works for a very cool company that's international, and one of the employees is French and talking about all about French education, and she doesn't really understand why people are so fascinated with France. And I'm like, I'm fascinated. Tell me everything. Like, I'm such a dork for you. I want to know how you do it all. And she was telling me that she does her day based on, can they handle this activity, or are they too tired or hungry? It was amazing to me. It blew my mind. She's like, we do this in the morning because they're starting to get a little hungry. Then we eat breakfast. Then when they can cognitively understand because they've been fed and rested, we do this activity. Then as it's going towards the afternoon nap time, they're going to be too hungry and unfocused to do anything. So we do this it was amazing. And I have never thought of it. Yes. And really it was like giving her kids the best opportunity. It wasn't frustrated, why aren't you listening? It was, how can I expect you to be focused or stable or like present when you're either hungry or tired? So let's take care of those variables, and then I'll put the activity surrounding that. I thought that was incredible and so compassionate.
Like a schedule?
Well, yeah, she kind of wrote it down to me, and she said, and then we have lunch, and we eat lunch, and we take a little rest. And of course we don't do anything before lunch because they're tired. And it was just so interesting. And it was just all around like the 3 meals, but depending on how close or how far it was from the meal or the nap time, that's how she would determine the level of like cognitive need for that activity.
That's so fucking brilliant.
I know. I thought it was incredible. It really helped me a lot, and also helped me be more compassionate. Like, okay, of course my kid isn't going to do the ABC puzzle right now. He's exhausted. So we're going to put on our little cartoon, and I'm going to not put that pressure on him when he wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
That's very smart. Yeah, my kid, it was like the nap time Gestapo. My kids napped like long past where they should have. Like I
love nap. Yeah. Nap helps me like refocus as a human.
Yeah. They like, and my kids are 26 months apart, so 3 grades but 2 years. But so I definitely I was like they were on the same schedule. I don't care. I'm not having 2 separate bedtimes. I'm not having 2 separate, And so like we like he might have been still napping at like 7 on the weekends, you know.
I mean, we, like, my husband and I, sorry, I just text my husband, bye, thank you, he left the house with the child, so it'll be quiet. I love it, and my husband and I look forward to we call it like a family nap. Everybody goes and naps, and it's the way I think we can be better people to each other.
I agree. Is your husband working from home?
He is. I'm currently in his office, which is our bedroom. And we have these like very pretty French doors to our bedroom, but they just fling open and close all the time. So he really doesn't have any privacy. And for a while, the only TV we had was in our bedroom because we didn't want to have TV run the household, but it does run our household. So we just stay in the bedroom while he's working to watch TV. We were like the movie Room, but like having the worst time. We were all in just one bedroom, and so I like sprung for a cheap TV to put in the living room, a small one, just to like space out our bodies a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's not a great situation for him, but that's what we have.
No, listen, I understand. We were very fortunate in that we moved. I think we moved in late November.
Oh, that's great. That's good timing.
And we moved so we were settled. We were pretty like 99% settled in when COVID hit, which is great because it's a bigger house. And so we are able to like
really stretch out
and also have some space from each other. And then that way they can also pretend to ignore me when I call them.
And you can do the same.
Yeah, I know.
You'd be like, I can't hear you. I'm in the shower.
Exactly.
So loud.
That is what we should all be doing.
Yeah, it's a great water pressure. So sorry, your concerns are not those of mine.
Right.
Continue to watch TV.
Exactly.
I'm checking it out.
And also that way, except for the fact that like when my husband does leave work and he'll, because he works at a psych ward, and so he's a psychologist also, I should say, and a lawyer, and so
that's why you got to hide from each other in that house. It checks out.
I know, trust me. And so he goes to work every day, and he'll come home and be like, "What'd you guys do?" Or like, you know, and
I hate that question.
And you know what my son said on Friday? He goes, "Daddy, I watched the entire 3rd season of Pokemon." So my husband did the math. It was 260 or 240 minutes.
How many hours? I can't do that.
I know, I'm trying. Like 4 hours.
All right, that's not bad. Is that terrible of me?
It depends who you ask. If you ask me, no. If you ask my husband, yes.
Yeah, well, it's like a movie before lunch, you have lunch, and then a movie after lunch.
Right. Fine.
Sounds great.
I agree, but that certainly wasn't the only thing they watched. I mean, they watched Fuller House. They have gone through seasons, and now they're revisiting them. Like, the problem is I also work, so it's, you know.
Yeah, it is impossible, and there's been so many articles about it, but I still think that as parents we are still hard on ourselves and living up to some bizarre expectation. But everybody I've spoken to, and people say publicly, it's an exorbitant amount of TV. There's no way to balance it all, and it's so difficult, and we've never been in this situation before.
Yeah, I'm not hard on myself.
Right.
I'm in the parent battle that some of us are into, which is what is expected and what is appropriate and what, you know.
It's very hard.
It's very hard. There are other ways I have been hard on myself, but in this one, I'm like, oh, fuck this shit. Like,
you're doing the best you can.
I'm doing the best I can. You know, I wake up at 5:30 in the morning to work out, so I can, in theory.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fine. I also start drinking by 5:30 at night, so it all balances.
You know what? It all works. It's in 5s. You work in a circle of 5s.
5s, exactly. I totally. By the way, I looked down to check my phone because I took notes as I was listening and stalking. Okay, I have to ask, the episode with Jonathan that was where his friends scammed him. And I also did not know Reader's Digest still existed, by the way.
You know what? God bless them.
Good for them. And I didn't realize they paid so well. I'm going to pitch to them.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a good idea. No,
I love them.
To Reader's Digest. Just got to figure out who the fuck is still reading it and what they would want to read. But yes. besides your parents. I'm sorry.
Right. My family, and that's it, though.
Right. So
we're the only ones supporting them.
You tell me what mom would like. Although Dad looks like a little bit of a hippie, no?
Yeah, he was for years. I mean, he's like, a refined businessman, but he's a hippie.
Which is awesome. So I got to figure out what a hippie turned refined businessman would want to read, and then that's what I'll pitch Reader's Digest.
Fabulous.
When was the episode recorded?
Of Jonathan's?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be exact. Don't worry. This isn't.
I'm trying to think. It was probably like 3 weeks ago. Okay. So it was still during COVID. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Because the reason I'm asking is because one of you made a comment that was like about the police, and like it was like, yeah, make them work for their money, and it was a flippant joke comment, and I'm not offended in the slightest by it, but I was like, nothing offends me, but I was like, wow, this is an interesting time to make that statement, like, and also good because not everything has to be about one thing. And it was just a joke. Like, it was just humor. So that was it. It just struck me. And I think that we're all trying, the more comedians I speak to, I think you guys are in this for the same way, the same reason shrinks are. Like, we got in this to figure out what the fuck is wrong with us or our family. And so there's this element of like pain and like angst and like, you turned, your Braca 1 diagnosis into something funny and proved that you can laugh at cancer. And Harry Potter world would say we should, because there's a something spell of some sort. But so I think it's interesting watching what people are doing with it now when
yes, exactly,
more stuff, right. Like, how have you felt creatively COVID has affected you besides the cabinets?
I know, loving my kitchen cabinets, refinished and painted them, pretending I'm in an English countryside like I wish I was. Right now, it's been sort of odd. I at first really loved the concept of lockdown because if you're a struggling comedian performer, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. I always felt that I should be at more late night clubs every night. I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Having a baby definitely set me back performing wise, but then also I didn't feel like doing anything else but being with my baby. So I wasn't sad to be set back. I just felt that everybody was sort of speeding up without me. And there's this pride between stand-up comedians where and it's a good thing, they'll explain how many shows they get to a week and how much they're standing, how much they're getting up on stage and how many nights they're booking. And it's a really great thing. And everybody's always encouraged to do more and see more shows. And the more you work, the tighter your jokes get and the more refined you are and the funnier you get. And all of that's wonderful. But then there was this like feeling of either the imposter syndrome, like if I was doing it, I wasn't really that good, I shouldn't be up here anyway, or I'll never do enough as I need to be like, to play with like the big boys. Now, when COVID hit, I was like, thanks for this little break. Like it stopped me from running those thoughts in my head. And I do a lot of, it was really nice. The podcast really saved me because otherwise I don't think I would have performed or tried to or had any interest in it. There is this safety net of being like, okay, we can all take a breather and a break. And then as people are starting to do outside comedy concerts and people are starting to do more, it was getting me kind of anxious again. And then I remembered every single week, I basically do a version of stand-up on my podcast. So again, it's just this like imposter syndrome or this expectation, or I have a lot of, I think in our career, there's not a clear path in any way, and no one has had the same path. So a lot of times we hold on to one person's story or path in our minds and go like, well, they did it this way. That was successful. That'll happen to me, just to sort of fortune tell for ourselves. And I used to do that a lot when I was younger about my body. Like if I was skinnier, that means I'll get the job. Like just all kinds of things that I would put on the path to try and make myself feel better or worse about where I was going in my career. And so what's been kind of nice is that I'm like, is that there's no clear way. And I've been able to do ScamWow and been able to do comedy and just remind myself like, this might be different. Maybe I'm not somebody who's at stand-up clubs at all hours of the night, but I'm constantly creating stuff and commenting and making myself laugh, making my family laugh, making my friends laugh, and our listeners enjoy. So it's this new format. And I will say that I still hold on to those things. Like I'll still say, well, this is how her career went, or this was the trajectory that they chose. That might be the way it works. But there's no real answer, especially in the entertainment industry. There's you just try the best you can.
Have you thought about like recording an album during this time?
That's really a good question. No, I haven't, because usually in my mind, albums have been like an audience based. Like a lot of my friends and comedians, whenever they record an album or a one-person show, it's in front of a live audience. Gotcha. You want those laughs there. You want an audience a very particular audience. And I know like professional, super famous comedians, like they'll pick some place in Idaho or something. Like they'll pick a place that you wouldn't assume has the best audience. And it's wherever they usually perform, where they get the most generous feeling from generosity from the audience, where the audience feels like in touch with their sense of humor. So they pick up on the subtleties and they just sort of celebrate that comedian. So really and I think to each comedian it's a little different, but you'll go, oh, that crowd was great. Like for me, I'm from Maryland, and my best crowd was Annapolis, Maryland moms. It just crushed, and it was like so good, and we were just cheering, and it was like the most fun crowd I've had, and it was a huge like theater, and it was really successful. And then I went to Boston the next night and got in my head, and it like wasn't as great, but people were more drunk at that one, so I'm like, well, maybe it's not Boston, maybe it was how drunk everybody was because they waited in line for so long and were given like free drinks. Like there's just all kinds of things you put in your head, and then when you set your live album, when you set your big show, that's usually what's around it. But I guess now people are doing albums without that.
I didn't, obviously not being a comedian, I didn't think about that.
You need that audience laughter. Even if it's a joke that you say like, to yourself, if you hear people laughing or a track laughing, it just encourages you to laugh as well. Sure. And in theater school, I had a great teacher who said that like laughter is just recognition to go, oh, that's me. You have this funny joke about scraping your toothpaste to the last minute, but you throw out half your coffee. Like, they're like, that makes somebody laugh because they're like,
it's totally apt. Yes, and it's totally true. And then I would also add that there's now like scattered throughout most of our houses as moms, there's like half empty coffee cups all over the place.
And I love Alice's Zoom group. It's like, how cold is your coffee? And I think of that every day because my coffee is freezing cold. She has a show for moms, and I make my coffee in the morning and I'll never get to it. Or I have tea bags floating around in cups, and I'll just never get to it. And I just have embraced iced coffee. I
have too. I'll actually freeze it the night before.
Yeah. Why not?
Or in the milk. Yeah, that's how I do it. You're right. I know. I don't know. And then you can't do it on Zoom. I'm sorry, my problem solving brain just kicked in. You can't really do it on Zoom because there's no way to filter out excess noise and then I understand. Right. That's me.
My friend does Zoom. She's doing Lauren Hope Crass. She's wonderful, and she's a really funny comedian. She's one of my favorite in New York City, period. She's not from here. She's from South Carolina, and she is so funny. If you ever want her, Lauren Hope Crass. And
I was just going to say, I'm writing it down. What is it?
Lauren Hope Crass. She's lovely. And she has been doing K. I think so.
I'm sorry. I know you're dyslexic and I'm OCD. So
no, it's fine. I'll text it to you later, or I'll send you her Instagram. She's lovely, and she will do these live college shows, and she'll have the kids all Zoom in, and it's free for them, but the college pays her. And so she'll do a stand-up bit, and she'll say, unmute when you laugh. And so they all have to unmute when they laugh. And then she'll be like, Charles, mute again. We don't want to hear what your roommate's saying. So she's done like a really good like crowd working scenario. And I was there to help her as like a tech one day to mute anybody who wasn't talking. And I accidentally muted everyone. And she was like, no, I need that feedback, like, because then they encourage each other to laugh. And so the complexity and the new evolution of a Zoom comedy show is growing as we speak, and it's getting better.
That's really interesting. I know New York Comedy Club has started doing some outdoors stuff, and then Fairfield Comedy Club in Connecticut is doing it.
My friend Ariel did an amazing show, and she got quoted, Ariel Elias, who's really, really funny. She got quoted by NPR, and they said basically they wrote her joke out, and they said it was perfect. And I was like, that's all you want. All you want is for somebody to like write your joke out exactly how you said it, and then at the end tell you it's perfect. Like that, I was like, this is huge, and it's huge because she hit the exact zeitgeist of what's happening right now in comedy, and her joke was just so lovely, and she's been getting this great attention. I'm so happy for her because I'm positive she didn't assume that this one random outdoor comedy show, she would just crush it, and people would be there to report on it and share. And so it's very exciting how people are sort of being showcased and shining during this gross, terrible time. Absolutely worst time ever.
But I think you're shining too in a different way, in that you're enjoying the time with your family. Not all the time. Don't worry, it's okay.
No, not all the time.
If it was all the time, you'd be a fucking liar. So yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh yes. Or drunk. Or you'd be like, this is fabulous.
Yeah. I prefer the latter. That's how I get.
You know, we all do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for Drizzly, so I don't have to leave the house. They deliver. No, they're not. No one sponsors me. I love them.
Just send them this episode. Be like, you should sponsor me. Listen to how hard my life is as a mom.
I know. Yeah, it's true. I think they're all probably drunk there, though. But probably not interested. And no judgment. None of us go anywhere, so what does it matter? But I feel like you're shining in your own way. Like you.
It's nice. Thank you.
No, but I sincerely mean it. I mean, listen, you are not the 2013 version of yourself, which is good because none of us should be who we were 7 years ago. But it's family, and it's, no,
I love it. I actually really love being with my son, and I really like him a lot as a person.
Yeah.
And we'll go into groups, and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm here with him because he's the only one I want to hang out with. Like, really, like, he's the cool kid, and I'm so happy to be his mom. I love it when he calls me mama.
Yeah.
I just cannot. I love it every time. He's just, before we were talking, he's just learning my name that's different than mom. And so when he says my name out of his little voice, I just really enjoy him as a person. And that is something that and it never bothers me. Like I'm happily just with him all day long. It's when he goes to bed and I sit at home and I'm on my phone and I'm on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, I should have done a live show in the city, in a park, to a pigeon and filmed it. Like that is the second,
Actually, the pigeon, I would like to talk to.
They're amazing members. They're good. They don't always stick around, but they're
or
everywhere.
Laugh. They don't laugh.
No, they don't. They just poop a lot, but they're there. They're around. You can't tell them apart, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like that's sort of when it creeps into my head, but I think that happens to a lot of moms because I feel like motherhood is such a specific individual task for each child.
Yeah.
But there are so many people reporting on it and talking about how they do it so well or so this way or so that way that I think that as moms, we know that our kids are constantly changing. We know that there's so many ways to help them and so many ways to discipline, so many ways to educate that I feel that it can breed this insecurity because everybody else is talking about the way that they do it. So the way somebody else parents is not going to work for Lewis, but I'll see that or see how glowing she talks about it and go, oh shit, should I be doing this? Like there's a lot of that too, I think.
Yeah, Rachel Hollis is getting a divorce, so throw all that shit out.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, she's the one who wrote Girls Stop Apologizing.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, maybe she should have apologized a little bit.
Maybe
she should have taken that book with her into couples therapy.
Right.
Just kidding. No offense. Sorry. I wish you the best.
It's fine.
Whoever you are.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. But see, I have a different like polar opposite experience on Instagram. I love going on there to find other funny, snarky, sweary women.
Oh yeah, I love those women.
And who are honest about how they feel. Like, do you know Gila Pfeffer? She's
Yes, I think so. I'm really bad with names. I know everyone's face. If you like pulled up a face, you're like, oh, I love her.
She also made the same decision you did though for the
Oh, wonderful. Good for her.
Pre-removal of boobs. Thank you.
Preventative double mastectomy.
Preventative double mastectomy. Thanks, Lily. Thank you. And she's an expat living in the UK, and she's super cool. But she's also super open with like not. I don't know. I like people who admit that we're not perfect and we yell at our kids. And Sometimes my kids are assholes. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. And I did a stand-up show for almost 2 years, maybe 2 years, right before COVID hit, we ended. And it was for moms and parents
was
to
it the
bring
BYOB?
No, that's Alice's show. Mine was, why am I losing it? Baby and Me Comedy. Not my favorite, but I like title, but it was very clear, very simple, Baby and Me Comedy. And I took over from another great comedian Sally Brooks, who moved down south. And so, and she did it with her child. And so I would host it I think once a month. Now that I'm like blanking, believe me, COVID is like only a couple months. Now I've forgotten everything pre-COVID.
Can I show you how I keep track of time?
Yeah.
Can you see that? That's my countdown every day. Like it's prison.
I love it.
Every day.
You need to Instagram that. People will be very relatable.
That's a good idea, actually.
You should.
I haven't thought of that yet. Brilliant.
Put it up. Yeah, so we do a monthly show, and you can bring your baby. And the point was for younger aged kids, infants, they basically fall asleep multiple times throughout the day. And we wanted to have the parents be in a place where if your kid screams or cries or needs to be fed, you have to whip out a boob. Yeah, we can all make fun of it. And so the entire show, every time I did it, I would basically be praising these parents. Like, I can't believe you got out of the house. I can't believe we're physically here. Like, isn't this nuts? Isn't being a parent the worst / the best / who are these assholes? But I love him and I made him. Like, constantly after every single comedian went up, and my rule was you weren't allowed to make fun of the parents. Like, we are literally hanging by a thread with newborns and first children. We are learning so much that if you as a comedian make fun of my audience members, I'm not booking you again. And that's 100% true. And I have like a no bullshit thing. And I know a lot of comedians, there's great crowd work and people can like give each other shit and the audience talks and you talk back to them. I was like, this mothers,
is not the time to do this.
This is not the time. Like, these mothers, like, you have to look at them with kid gloves. And a lot of my comedians didn't have kids. And I've had like one or two that sort of made fun of a child's name or like was making fun of it. And I was like, get off my stage. This isn't for you. Like, this comedy show is a service to these parents who feel embarrassed to go out in public with their kids, feel anxious. They don't know how to like multitask with all these different pacifiers and bottles and wipes. Like, we're just literally getting by second to second. So this has to be relaxing for them, that they get to laugh and enjoy in a safe space. So I really love that, because I would just talk about the shit. Like, I talk about my postpartum depression. I talk about cesareans. I talk about sex after babies. I talk about pooping after you have a baby, like just everything. And all of my comedy was very easy to come up with at that point. It was like no stress, because I would just talk about what was happening with me, with my newborn. And mainly it was just to make them feel more comfortable. And they laughed. Thank God it was funny. But it was really, that was my source material. And that was one of my most favorite shows.
I'm so jealous that I didn't have that. I joined Stroller Strides, which is
that's good, I guess. Walking and complaining.
So
that's what I would do.
Yeah, it was really walking in malls in Long Island, and I did not like the woman who was leading it. But I did listen. I met some friends, and that's great,
of course.
But like, it was also like the focus was still sort of on how I was feeling about my body, and that was you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so that wasn't their focus, that was my focus. So it would have been much better to be sitting there laughing with other people.
Oh yeah, and moms can drink, and like you can order food. Like, it was really nice. And I mean, I will say though to that, I couldn't really get myself up and out of the house. I was dealing with my postpartum depression that was very physical for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think when people talk about postpartum depression, and I always say it as much as I can, what we learned in the 80s and what we see in TV and movies, I was told by multiple doctors that that's postpartum psychosis and not postpartum depression. And sort of in the common knowledge of postpartum depression, when you talk to an average person, you're afraid of, or they tend to think of postpartum psychosis, a woman driving into the river, or a woman killing her kid, or like jumping out of a building. Like, that is what was sort of fetishized and obsessed about really in like the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what people think about when people who don't know, and common people, and even first time mothers, are afraid if you admit that something is you're having postpartum depression, or you're like, well, I would never hurt my child. I don't want to do that. So that's not me. But I had to talk to a bunch of doctors that explained, which I loved, that postpartum depression is the same diagnosis code as depression. You just add postpartum if you've had a child. Like that blew my mind, because as a woman who's been to plenty of therapists and gets all of her codes and knows all of her meds, to have the diagnosis code be the same as depression. I've had depression my whole life. So now to add postpartum means within this year, I had a baby. So it was such a freedom and such like a gift when I figured that out. And so I always made sure to talk about it in my show, that this is, if you've ever dealt with depression, or if you have a family member or somebody you love and you're considerate and compassionate to them with depression, this is just depression with a different label at the beginning of it. It's the exact same. And this is a beast maybe we've tackled before, or something that you're more familiar with. It's not, postpartum depression isn't its own monster. Now, I love that they have postpartum depression so that doctors can know there's a child involved, maybe the relationship, this person is getting less sleep than usual, her body's healing, all these things. But it blew my mind when I understood that there was no diagnosis code distinction. Now, say what you want with insurance companies and this, that, and maybe there should be, but I really liked they didn't feel like I was some sort of abnormal creature as a mother.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, when I had my son, and I was a doctor, had been working,
of course. It's a lot of pressure on you.
Months off. No, right. But the fucked up thing is, this is my field. And I didn't realize until afterwards that I only separated night from day by raising the blinds in the morning. Yes. And lowering them in the evening, and I was fucking depressed, and I didn't.
Very depressed.
Yeah.
But also, the thing with having a new baby, and anybody listening or going through it, it's that when you have a baby who needs you, who's crying, you're in an autopilot sense. You aren't actually checking in with yourself that much. You might for a second be like, "Am I depressed?" And then your kid starts screaming, and you have to go feed them. There's not really what's sort of troubling and difficult I felt to diagnose myself, and for my friends to diagnose themselves or even get help, is that you're sort of constantly catching up after your own child and after their growth and after the newborn and their schedule, that to even think of that, you might be depressed. It's well, of course I am. I haven't slept. I almost think everybody sort of downplays it. And I heard that I'm sure you know more about this than I do, that
I probably don't, if it has to do with the DSM, because
okay. I don't know, but a friend of mine talked to her doctor, and she realized she had postpartum depression when her daughter was 3, that she must have had it. And a lot of doctors say, or I read that doctors say that at 3 years old is usually when postpartum depression gets either realized or comes back for parents who haven't addressed it early on.
Interesting.
And I had a good friend of mine who said that she realized, she talked to her doctor and she was like, "Oh, I think you have postpartum depression," and her child's 2.5. And so I think it's sort of that moment where I'm seeing now with my own son, he's able to do more things on his own. He can watch TV sitting on his own. I can be in the kitchen doing something. We have more space to sort of see ourselves as full people and emotionally, be more attentive to our emotions, that then women can realize that maybe they did have postpartum depression early on. They didn't really catch it or could even catch up to it.
Yeah.
And then you realize it at 2 or 3 years, which I also think can be really hard for the mom, because you're this whole time I could have had help. Or there's just so many feelings and judgments and stressors about us all trying to be this great, perfect mom that has all the answers for this little infant that's asking us to basically have all the answers.
Yeah, I don't have any answers. I never changed a diaper when I had my son. Oh. So I was super fucked, and getting this kid to sleep was
it's so hard.
It was so bad. It was so bad. It's so bad. I would have had a third except for the sleep factor, and I would need a different sperm donor because my husband refused adamantly.
Yeah, that's for us too. I think the sleep thing, and I actually, I'm so glad you said it, because I have not heard more people talk about it, but we are struggling with thinking of if we could manage or do it, because the sleep factor is such a huge thing for us, that we are not the people we want to be when we don't get enough sleep, and it builds up on us, and we crash as parents. We really crashed. We had a really tough time in the beginning of COVID. We had to go back to my parents' house in Maryland and just get help, because we just felt, I was sick, Lewis was sick, none of us were sleeping. He was waking up 5 times a night. And so Alan and I became, my husband Alan, I just said Alan and I became
We're renaming
zombies.
Your whole family today.
I know. we became zombies, and we really needed our family to help us just so we could get back on a sleep schedule.
Yeah. And it was a sleep issue for me. I had such anxiety around it. And then, when they get sick and you're like, oh fuck, everything's going to hell. And
Forget it.
I know.
And we would be anxious before bed for if he would sleep through the night. Then we would be anxious throughout the night if we hear him. Then when he'd wake up, we'd be anxious. Did he wake up too early? Is it going to be a tough night then? Is he going to take a long nap? Like it is something that can create an incredible amount of stress.
It was hugely stressful. I mean, I have anxiety anyway. It was hugely stressful for me. Real quick, it was funny. My daughter, she was slow with her physical development, but like a PT and OT skills, but very advanced verbally. And so like basically when we tried to let her cry it out at some point, I know. And so we closed the door because we didn't want her to wake up her brother. Right. And finally one night my husband goes in there. He's like, what are you crying about? Not really expecting an answer, but she goes, want door open. You're like, oh. And
it's just that.
And that was the end of it. And like, that was good. So we got lucky because she should not have been speaking like that. Like she was too young. Listen, she was 1 before I ever thought to move the crib level down. So that's where, because she didn't sit up. So I didn't see a problem. You know? But yes, that sleep is awful. Caitlyn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we be friends? I really like you.
Yes, I love this. Thank you so much for being so understanding of my schedule. I've literally had to cancel and reschedule this call so many times.
It's really okay. Oh, I have
because of his sleep, because of his nap schedule.
Exactly. And I have no problems with that. Where can people find you, follow you? Oh, wait, I forgot to mention, Caitlyn, you have an awesome book also.
Yeah, thank you.
It's Dangerous Boobies.
Yes.
I really like saying the word boobies.
So
people you should read it. It's very good. Dangerous Boobies. Okay, I haven't read it, but after talking to you, I'm assuming I'm not gonna fake but
no, don't even stress. It's a comedy book about my experience, and I've had friends that have been like, I don't know anything about boobs or breast cancer, but I thought it was funny. So I was like, that's the biggest compliment. I just want you to laugh,
And I also I am gonna read it because I relate to my people are the people that don't give me that sad face when I tell them something sad.
Yeah.
I want to joke sometimes. So there you go.
Yes.
So buy Dangerous Boobies, and then where should people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, usually floating around there at my childhood nickname, which is Katie, Caity. My last name, Brodnick, Brodnick. And also on ScamWow Podcast, which is a podcast about scams. Me and my co-host, Sue Smith, it's very fun. It's a weekly podcast, and we talk about historic and current scams. And I think this week coming out, we have a mailbag special. So people send in their scams or send in like if they got scammed or a scam that they found. And our listeners are incredible detectives. So it's really fun.
So excited. I love it. Good. It's now officially added into my rotation.
Oh, thank you. It's really, really fun.